of God and country ever. We are Right America Media.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Veteran Nation. We are live again this week. We're having some issues, so if you are joining us on YouTube, you're probably joining a little bit late because it keeps crashing on me for some odd reason. Yeah, that one's all on me. This is not a Juan, man behind the curtain problem. It's a problem with my connection.
Did you just compare the owner, producer, showrunner, and talent agent and scout for our entire network to the Wizard of Oz?
Yes. He's the wizard. We are the flying monkeys.
Wouldn't that make him the witch?
I think he'd probably prefer that one. But I'm recording,
so he's the good witch,
do...
the good witch of the East. I don't know. I don't think the good witch had flying monkey. I'm not his flying. I don't know what you're talking about. I think it's all you, by the way, because you're cutting in and out. You sound like Max Headroom, only.
You're up there in Minnesota, and if I'm not talking about Paul Bunyan, you have no clue what I'm talking about.
Yeah, take another drink. You're less dangerous that way.
No.
Oh.
We do.
How was your? How was your?
Go ahead.
How was your week?
Not bad. I actually did several videos. Did some things on the Jack Teixeira, the classified document arrestee. Did some things on him. Did a couple other videos out there for people. See if they, just see if the people out there in the YouTube sphere, if they enjoy it or not.
For anybody that's watching us here on Right America Media or our viewers over on NRN, I just want everybody to be aware. I never say I told you so. I find I told you so to be insufficient for what happens when I tell you so, and it happens. So I'm not telling you I told you so, but I'm pretty sure that I told you so, that there were American combat troops on the ground in Ukraine long before anybody wanted to admit it, and would have never admitted it if it hadn't been for Jack. And so, folks, I'm never telling you I told you so, but I might have warned you.
That's we did talk about that live on the air. In fact, Micah, our guest, reached out to me and was like, "Whoa, TC was 100% right."
You were like loath to tell him, "Don't admit it. Don't tell TC he was
right." We do have a good guest tonight, though. Someone who posts a lot of things. Is someone who's within the military circle and is fighting to help improve things. She's a military spouse, and military spouses have to deal with a lot of the brunt of what the military puts out, and she has been working with people trying to fight the fight to make some improvements. So if we can, let's bring her in. Melissa Godoy, aka the Military Housing Slumlord. Melissa, welcome to the show.
No. Now am I the only one whose mic is working?
Can you hear me?
There we go.
Oh, now we got you. Thanks. Hey, folks, I just want to remind everyone that we are a professional show, and we never have any technical difficulties. ever. But if you would like to see the quality of our non-technical difficulty aspect of the show improve, you could help support Right America Media by going to My Pillow and entering, Mike, what's the code? What's the promo code at my
promotion code is RAM.
My Pillow? Yeah. Which is how I feel this show is going right now. We're just ramming it through. It's like loading an artillery piece is what it's like. So
So I'm going to give up on our YouTube stream because it keeps crashing on me. So for those watching on YouTube, they'll have to watch the recording. I'm recording, so we should be okay.
It's going good right now.
Maybe change. Is it the site that you're using? Maybe the platform or whatever. I don't know anything about.
No, I think it's actually my internet strength. For some reason, when I first came in, the producer, he told me, he was like, hey, there's something going on with your internet today. And I don't know why, because it normally goes out when we get high winds out here. But the internet stream is, like, there's nothing that should affect it, but for some reason it's messing up.
I think what Mike is trying to say is that when the wind blows hard, it doesn't allow the blowhard to do a lot of talking. So Mike, tell us about the guest that you brought tonight. Since this is, I feel awkward because I just met.
Why'd you bring me here? What'd you bring me here for? What are we going to talk about?
Well, I really do respect your opinion because you have a different view of the military than what me or TC would. And the fact that you're fighting to improve conditions, definitely, that's a good thing, and that's what we do here. So if you can talk a little bit about, like, the things that you, like, the pictures that you post and the things you try to bring light to in the military.
Okay, so I started. I'll start about I'll add a little about the beginning. What started this for me? My husband enlisted in 2005 and we got married in 2009, and we've been living the military lifestyle since. And it wasn't until we got to Joint Base Lewis McChord that I really started seeing all of the military housing issues. I think up until that point we got lucky. And I heard about all the issues, but living in a house that makes you sick just did not, I couldn't fathom that. Like, you could sue for that. There's no, in my legal mind, I'm thinking, there's no way that somebody would let a house get so rotten that it would make everybody sick like that. I just could not wrap my mind around that. So we moved into Joint Base Lewis McChord in 2018. And by 2019, we lasted 1 full year in that house. And by then we all had lung infections, asthma, ear infections, rashes, like it just falling apart. And it was then that I realized what was happening, and I decided to start a group just on a whim, just a Facebook group, and I gathered a bunch of tenants up and I started checking their houses. Like, I want to see this for myself, And in a way, I just wanted to provide more support for myself because I knew I was going to sue.
And we had a pretty
at that point, it was 6 months into the house. Go ahead.
Oh, we had a pretty good discussion about a week ago. We were talking about how, when it comes to improvements, they weren't allowing people to record the maintenance workers and the lack of maintenance that they were doing because they were saying it was a privacy issue.
Yeah, there was a bunch of us. Well, I actually recorded them, and it started because of me. we got displaced. I found the mold, got displaced, and I recorded them. I went on my Facebook, my own personal Facebook, and I went live and just with my family and friends, and I just wanted to document because they were just gaslighting me that whole year and telling me everything was fine, everything's great, there's nothing wrong with the house. Meanwhile, we're drowning in our own mucus in our lungs and stuff. And I wanted to record them because I was tired of it. So I went live and recorded the whole walkthrough where we got displaced. And it was then that I knew I had to do something. I had to do something. And it was after my live and after I started checking houses, I think I lost count at like 33 homes. Like I personally made sure that they were moved out of the house. And I was recording and I went live in my group in each home and I got documentation of all of it. Where those lives are, I don't know. My Facebook profile, my original Facebook profile that I had for like 12 years or whatever was mysteriously deleted. I went to log into my Facebook and it just said account permanently disabled.
When did that
all
happen?
of that happened in December 2020. And it was just gone along with all of my pictures and videos that I had of housing that I posted in my group. Like everything associated with that, my original profile was gone, just gone. And I couldn't recover the account. But it was at that point when, I opened Pandora's box, basically. I started reaching out to other families and more families, hundreds of families started joining my Facebook group, then thousands. And then I started talking to other service members. And then I branched out to Instagram where I started talking to barracks tenants. And that was back in, let's see, I started this in 2019, and then I started my Instagram in 2020. And by now, I've literally talked to thousands of service members and over, about different issues happening, different injustice happening to our service members, medical malpractice and, slummy barracks, defect issues, pay issues. I've talked to Gold Star family members, about their non-combat deaths and murders and missing service members. And I literally opened Pandora's box and uncovered just this dark side of the military. One that I'm a little, I am worried about myself. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. My husband's, he's still active duty. And so far they haven't done anything to him or retaliated against him or anything like that. But, the things that I post about and I talk about in my Instagram are very controversial. And I don't want to say put a bad light on the military, but I kind of do. I kind of do. And I don't mean for it to be that way. The military is capable of some amazing things, but there's also another side. And that's kind of why I started doing what I'm doing now. Because some of the things that are happening to our service members today, I mean, it's just wrong. It's just wrong. It's wrong. I've always been this type of a person to speak up about myself and things that are happening to me and around me. And if you talk to my kids or like my husband and close family and friends, they would tell you the same thing. This is not out of character for me. To speak up about things, but to speak up about something as big as the military is out of my comfort zone. But there's a lot of wrong things happening. How can someone ignore that? Especially, our service members, the people that, are the defense of our country. That's a big deal. And part of that, I was part of the crowd where I thought the military was like a very respectable, clean organization.
Mhm.
And I always thought they get the best house. You know, before I became a spouse, I didn't have access to the installation. So whenever we would go on an installation for a special event, I just thought it was like this whole different world. And then I find out all these things are happening. It's like someone removed the veil. It's scary. It's scary, some of the things that are happening to our service members, because one, they're not allowed to speak up about a lot of these things, and they experience a lot of retaliation. And it's just, you know, when they're living in a house that makes them so sick they get med boarded out of the military, that is just severe injustice to me, you know.
You're
Or
100% right.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's horrible. It's horrible. And I just can't, in my heart of hearts, I can't shut up about it. I can't be quiet about it, knowing that those things are happening, especially, you know, when it's my husband's coworkers, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched
Yep.
my husband sacrifice 18 years, and knowing how much he has sacrificed for this country and for these companies and these contractors to be doing what they're doing to him and the people the people that he works with, all his coworkers, all 1.4 million coworkers of active duty service members, knowing how much you guys have sacrificed every day, and to get ripped off like that, it makes me angry. So me speaking up about it, that's me being angry.
Having lived
You know,
through this,
you
do you think that the Camp Lejeune water thing seems much more realistic now?
Like, what do you mean?
That the government for years will lie to people for 20 plus years and keep families in a place where it is unhealthy to live.
Elaborate. I'm sorry. What?
So
Well, because
Camp Lejeune had a major problem with their water going back to the 70s, and
Okay. Yeah.
service member.
No. I know that.
So do you find a lot of people go, there's no way that happened for that long. There's no way that, I mean, I've
Oh,
had people have these conversations with me. These people are crazy. They're losing their minds. They're having these problems. They want to blame anybody but themselves for their health problems. You know, there's no way the military would allow something like that to happen. The Marine Corps would never allow anything like that to happen. Maybe the Coast Guard. That and sorry, I pick a branch and I dig at it once in a while, but that they have that responsive that no one would ever do that. That wouldn't happen to our military. And then someone like you, Melissa, comes on with all of the work that you've done, with the experiences that you've had, and you start to lay this stuff out. And I mean, this is just for you going back to 2009. And there are some of us that are, looking back and going, I was glad that there wasn't enough room on post for me when I was stationed at Fort Bragg or even over in Germany, that I was able to live on like in the German economy, because I saw what the housing concerns were like over in even Frankfurt, Germany. They were filthy. They were nasty. They were run down. They were broke down. No security. So I was able to get out, and GERB, which is government authorized. I don't know. It's probably not in program anymore. But I lived literally miles and miles and miles away from the nearest military installation, in and amongst the Germans, which has its own problems. But then I was able to go when I got to Fort Bragg, and I was able to find a place off post because they didn't have any housing for me. And I looked around barracks and whatnot, and I was like, just at the barracks, and then where some of my friends lived on post. Yeah, right, exactly. Juan, go bring that picture up. And I saw stuff like what you're seeing there, and that's back into the early to mid 90s, and it was absolutely devastating. And I was thankful. And people still don't want to believe. And like you said, you have this kind of this rosy image of what the military housing and whatnot would look like. They're going to take care of the families, which is, by the way, military members, we get to the point where we're used to being used and abused and, rode hard and put away wet, like the old saying goes. But when you start to talk about family members, I mean, there are family members that have horrible living conditions. And then on top of it, most of them have to be on food stamps if they have one, two, or three, four children, and because they don't make enough, and it's hard for a lot of military spouses, one, if they can find work, to have full-time work, because there are so many other people competing for those jobs. Not to mention the childcare is terribly expensive and inefficient for the military, and so they're forced to live in these places. They don't have a choice unless they choose to do a voluntary hardship separation where mom takes the kids and goes, back to live with her parents or his parents, sometimes hours, if not days away. And it is, you're absolutely right. It's terrible. It's, you know, as my old platoon sergeant down in Fort Bragg would have said, it's terrible. Terrible.
Yeah, I do see a lot. I do get a lot of naysayers commenting, and a lot of my posts and my TikTok went viral, and there were some people that shared my TikToks and were very, negative. They had an opposing opinion, and even other service members commenting on my Instagram posts, stuff like toughen up. And it's like, okay, well, it's not a matter of toughen up. It's a matter of, it's a public health concern.
Your family shouldn't have to toughen
When
up.
you
That's
have
the point.
families, even service members, it's not fair to get med boarded because of illnesses related to slummy conditions, contaminated water, things that are basic necessities. Honestly, I don't feel that is part of the sacrifice. You shouldn't be getting sick while doing your job and then get told toughen up.
Mhm.
Well, I'm sorry, my skin is falling off. What do you want me to do? My guts are spilling out of, orifices on my body. I hold on, let me just tape it up. Like that doesn't make sense. And oh yeah, and as far as the Camp Lejeune situation, yeah, those people got years and years. They did it to us in housing.
Mhm.
I've had a housing rep tell me that I needed to clean better. And we get it all the time, even just for housing. I couldn't, and then, the people down there in Oahu in, what's that, Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam, with the gasoline in the water, the
Mhm.
fuel water that they've been going through for over a year now. Captain Spitzer had the nerve to publicly tell these people that their water is fine. He drinks it, so it should be fine for them too. Meanwhile, they're in the hospital, with chemical burns in their throat and their stomachs and chemical burns on their bodies. Kids are being hospitalized. And families were saying that their housing smells like a gas station. And let's not even talk about the barracks tenants. At least the families got help. Somewhat. At least they were acknowledged,
Mhm.
I'll say. Let me retract that. At least they were acknowledged. The barracks tenants, they were not displaced. Their their personal items, like, their clothing and stuff smelled like gas. They didn't get any medical screening. They didn't get anything. They didn't get, housing didn't flush their barracks. Everything that touched the water was contaminated. Their refrigerators, their sinks, their coffee makers. everything was contaminated. Barracks tenants were telling me, yeah, my room smells like a gas station. Nobody helped them. They're still in the barracks. They didn't get to go to medical.
Yeah.
So those
No,
people
so,
were ignored.
you don't need to send anybody to sick call when everybody's sick with the same thing.
That would be.
It's true.
That would be.
What makes me laugh is I wonder why retention is so low. No one wants to re-enlist. Well, you have them in the worst living conditions available.
And then you don't even make up. You don't make up for the inflation. That we're all experiencing inflation, and we're all needing a raise. Everybody needs a raise. So the DOD goes and tells everybody, go get on food stamps.
Yeah.
Go get on food stamps.
I don't know if it helps, Melissa, but they've been telling military families that for decades. And
the kicker is service members don't qualify because they never qualify because they count BAS and BAH as part of the income when in actuality those are contractual agreements. Those are your contractual entitlements. That is the payment you get for enlisting. It should never be counted ever in anything. Your base pay is what should be counted, and they don't. So I know E1s with 4 kids, normally a civilian would qualify, but they don't because they think we're just money bags everywhere. No, like they live in the crappiest houses, but they don't qualify for food stamps.
Myself and TC, we've been very vocal about the situation on the bases. And we believe, especially here in the last several years, while they were being on base was never always the most glamorous thing. It's significantly deteriorated to us. And we've highlighted a couple cases. Obviously, the big one is Vanessa Guillen down at Fort Hood. But you highlighted a case that we didn't know about. And can you talk about Pvt Halliday a little bit?
Yeah, Pvt Richard Halliday in Fort Bliss. I spoke with his mom, Patricia, a couple times in the beginning when he first went missing. And she had just started getting vocal. She had just started her page. And the frustration at that time was trying to get the military, the Army, to declare him missing. Because I think at that point, they were just calling him AWOL. And without that missing status, they were trying to recruit. Go ahead.
I want to touch on something because I've been having this conversation over the last few days with some people as I've talked about this story. He went missing in July, right, of 2020.
June 23rd.
June 23rd of 2020. And they were insistent that he was AWOL when his mom started to ask questions. But it took them 36 days. 36 days to communicate to his family that he was missing. And what people don't understand is there's no way in hell a soldier, an airman, a seaman, a Marine, anybody goes missing for 36 days. CONUS, continental United States, non-combat, and the military, the superiors and whatnot, MPs, SPs, whatever it is, do not immediately contact the family, not to tell them that the person's missing, but to immediately start an investigation into this service member being AWOL. The same freaking day, almost without fail. They might give it a couple of days to see if this person's hiding out somewhere or drunk somewhere. Not that a service member would ever get drunk and forget to show up for an assignment.
Unless if they've changed it, 7 days was the where you went from unauthorized absence to a more serious level where they were really calling. But they still, when I had Marines who went unauthorized absence, we would call their families. We would call their next kin, be like, hey, if you talk with them, let us know.
Yeah. Or tell them to, get their butts back here, or to call us, let us know what's going on. This family went, and by the way, folks, this is just the surface of the story. Melissa will be able to tell us a little bit more. 36 days this family went, had no idea. They weren't hearing from Private Halliday. They weren't seeing anything. And this is the days of social media. Soldiers had social media in 2020. They weren't getting any communication from, his first name is Richard, correct?
Yes, Richard.
Yeah. No communications from Richard at all. It took the military 36 days to give any kind of explanation to the mother, and that was, he's just missing. No one's seen him. And so she started to ask questions and got the runaround. They basically accused him of being AWOL at that point. Now, she's fighting for answers from that 36-day window. So that pushes that into August at this point.
Yep.
Where did they find Richard, Melissa?
From what I've seen on Patricia, his mom's, her Facebook called Find Richard Halliday, I saw recent posts that they found his body dismembered with a bullet hole in his head. And it was partial remains, and it was definite foul play. And
But Mexico, correct?
Yeah, I don't remember the name. It started with a C. I can't pronounce it. But it was pretty close to the Fort Bliss area. And I remember at that time when I spoke with her, they were fighting to get a missing status on him. They were trying to get the group that helped find Vanessa Guillen and a couple other service members in Fort Hood. They were trying to get that group to help them, but in order for them to help, he needed a missing status. And the Army just would not do it. And they had to fight for that. And then they finally did it, I think 6 months later. Months. Your loved one is missing for months. And they finally were able to get groups and stuff helping. And in my post about Richard, there was a couple service members, or maybe one or two, I don't remember, but somebody commented and said that the Army did send out search parties and stuff like that. But I'm not sure the extent. I'm not sure what area they covered. I'm not sure for how many days, I just know that they were looking, but I don't know the details of that.
Part of the issue, though, is the military is not communicating. The military is not communicating with his mother. Yeah. They're not giving her any information. But we do know one thing for sure. And that was, he was named not as a suspect, but as a witness in a CID, which is Criminal Investigation Division. It's kind of the detectives of the military police and the Army. He was named as a witness in an investigation into his command about child pornography, and his name was leaked.
CID, from what his mom has said in her posts and her page, yes, he was named as a witness, and somehow his name got leaked by CID, and then next thing you know, he's missing. And from what she said in her post, his body was found in October of 2020. And she didn't know anything until recently. And it's now 2023. So for the last 3 years, she had no idea, nothing. Nobody was talking to her about anything.
Let me see if I get this timeline straight, Melissa. You're telling me that they found him in October of 2020 and did not tell her?
Didn't tell anyone.
Wow.
I did not even understand that. So she just found out that her son that she's been searching for since, let's just say August, by the time they informed this poor woman, since August of 2020, she has been searching for this poor kid and let's just be honest. I mean, Juan had his picture up there. He's a kid.
He's a kid.
Searching for this poor kid, enlisted. For whatever reason, he enlisted, goes missing after the CIA. Apparently, we don't know this beyond any reasonable doubt, but apparently CID leaked his name as a witness in a criminal investigation into child pornography in his command staff. He then disappears, and they find his body in Mexico, dismembered with a bullet wound to his head. And no one tells his mother or anybody in his family that he's dead until just recently. Folks, this is why. Go ahead.
Her next hurdle is getting her son's body. They don't want to turn over his body.
So what I'm going to
proper military funeral.
So what I'm going to say to this is, I have some friends that are, I would say they're watching us live right now, but we're having some feed issues, and it's live. I would imagine it's working well on ram.tv and Facebook and everything else. But I have some friends that I will be sending them the links to this because they were going to be watching live. They asked to be tagged. But I will be making sure that as soon as this goes up, and I know that Skipper will stay up late tonight because we're going to want this up. I'm the enlisted guy. I get to tell the commissioned guy what to do. So Skipper will make sure that this goes up right away tonight. I like to refer to them as pretty heavy hitters when it comes to actual investigative journalism, not the kind of stuff you see on 60 Minutes in 2020, but these are people who have put their lives and their reputation at risk to investigate some pretty big stories. And one of them immediately, when I told him we were going to be talking about this, immediately reached out to me. Like, the post wasn't even up, or the tweet wasn't even up on Twitter for very long when Ken said, "I will be watching this." When he says he's going to watch something, and when some of these others say they're going to watch something, what that means is dig. They're going to dig. And it's high time. People have to recognize this. And I know I will get no pushback from any of the military veterans in the group, from anybody that's part of the show, anybody that watches, anybody that's been on the show. It's high time that the military, like every other governmental entity, starts to understand that you don't get away with these things because there's nobody there who has the power to hold you accountable. We the people have the power to hold you accountable. We the people are your bosses. Mm-hmm. And sure, we may not have the money, we may not have all the access that it would take for somebody who has the credentials to be able to come in and do something, but we can bring pressure to bear. I want to know who was investigated. I want to know what the investigation entailed. I want to know how the leak happened. I want to know who's the leak. Did that leak get promoted? Is that leak part of the problem? I mean, the leak is, and I'm all for certain types of leaks. There are some things that should not be hidden, but the name of a witness in a criminal investigation should be protected, especially when that is a cherry private, a buck private, sees something, says something, apparently is named as a witness, and his name gets out and he ends up dead. I'm supposed to believe that this is all coincidental. That's all just weird. Mm-hmm. And what do we know? Two murders at Fort Hood in recent years, mm-hmm, of people who had filed sexual harassment, sexual assault charges or made claims, structured, verifiable, objective reality style claims. of sexual harassment and abuse at the hands of superiors. Dead.
Do you know how many females I know that are out of the military and that are still in that have filed sexual assault or military sexual trauma type complaints and have gotten reprimanded or kicked out? Dozens. That's just me. I know dozens. There's more than that, but it's very common. And like the one girl, she was in Fort Riley. Gosh, I can't remember her name.
Are you speaking about the one I'm pulling up one here, Denisha Smith?
No, this one was in 2001, I believe. Oh my gosh,
Okay.
what is her name? Oh, I can't remember. I posted about her. Camilla? I'm not good with names. I'm good with faces. Like, I'll remember your face until I'm old and gray, but your name, I'm horrible with names. But this one girl, she went on the news, and it's Fort Riley, and she filed a sexual assault complaint against her superior, and then within a year, she was kicked out. I think it was dishonorable, and then 6 months after she got out, she was found dead in her house.
Well, here's the one I've been following
God,
as
what is her
well. This happened out of Durham, North Carolina. Denisha Smith was assaulted by 4 military police officers. Uh,
Oh yeah, her too.
Prior to the investigation, her death was ruled a homicide, and they said that she had hung herself on her knees in her closet. I don't know how you hang yourself on your knees, but that's what they claim that she did. She had her bags packed up. She was ready to go home. Had texted her family. Couldn't wait to see how, couldn't wait to see them in just a short amount of time. But yeah, then she ends up dead. And the other thing about it is the camera that was to her room was shut off by the military police before they went in there.
Yeah, somebody didn't want her to leave.
Mm-hmm.
She was ready to go. Somebody didn't want her to leave because maybe they thought that she would tell someone while she's away from the installation. That's what it sounds like to me. Somebody definitely knew she was leaving, and I'm not sure if the room looked like, there was a struggle, but maybe it was somebody she knew. You open the door for somebody you know.
I talked a little bit about this on the live stream that I did last week. I ran into instances like this. I did a military investigation on a sexual crime on an individual, a Marine, and while I couldn't prove that he had done what it was claimed, there was stuff that he had done wrong. So I said, look, he probably did this, but I don't have any proof, but I do have proof at these violations. Finished off my investigation, fine, it's all done. They're figuring out what they're going to do. Then they put this individual in the vicinity, like purposefully in the vicinity of someone who was, they were vulnerable. And lo and behold, next thing you know, he's got a sexual assault case against him. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, one, the command already knew he had problems. Why are they putting him around people who are vulnerable? And two, then it was a matter of they still were treating it like, well, this is just probably someone who, this didn't really happen. And I'm like, oh, that absolutely happened. Now I totally believe it. I thought he was guilty of before. Now I know he's guilty.
Yeah.
And
Now we know.
And they weren't allowed to introduce any of that at his court martial, so he eventually was acquitted of sexual assault at his court martial. Thankfully, the general kicked him out, but that individual still was able to retire with full pay and benefits. And the thing about it is,
that full pay and benefits. I hear so many leaders getting convicted of all kinds of things and they still get that full pay and
yep,
benefits.
and that's what if you're a
What is
viewer
it? What
watching.
is it that you
If you're a viewer watching and you don't know much about the military, know this. A commander can set aside your conviction, your felony conviction at court martial. They can completely set it aside and nothing happens to you.
in the military?
Hmm. Yep.
Oh my God. So
Because that is not a civilian jurisdiction.
Correct.
So it doesn't even
how
follow
do
you
they
into the civilian world.
how do they escape civilian charges?
I mean,
Military has
how do you-
jurisdiction. Military has jurisdiction over anything that happens on the post, and it's it's hard to explain just the loopholes, and the hurdles
they have
and everything
jurisdiction when
else
they
that
want
a
jurisdiction.
civilian jurisdiction has to go to. Yeah,
They want
they
jurisdiction when
they
I've seen
they
it.
still have to.
I've seen it where the military doesn't want to touch something, so they're like, "Oh, well, we're just going to give this to the local
Mhm.
sheriff." I've seen this at
Mhm.
Marine Corps or McCagsey 29 Palms. Seen that myself. So they have jurisdiction until they don't.
When the military wants to give it over.
Yeah.
When the military wants to give it over. But if the military claims jurisdiction, a civilian law enforcement agency can't even step foot onto
Yep.
that post.
So they're their own sovereignty.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Uh,
kind of
Yeah,
what it
basically.
sounds like. That their own courts, their own, like, you know how tribal courts, they're their own sovereignty.
Exactly.
Wow, that's scary. That's really
And
scary considering everything I know. That's scary.
which is fine when Congress gives the special trust and confidence to that. That's fine when they're actually upholding the standards, but I think there's so many instances now. It's clear the military leadership is failing and they are not upholding their end of the deal. They are not deserving of their special trust and confidence.
No, absolutely not, especially considering anything that has to do with bodily harm. I don't think that commanders should be responsible or have any say in any crime that involves bodily harm. And that could be assault, domestic violence, it could be rape, anything that involves bodily harm, like DUIs, I mean, whatever. But, just petty crimes, misdemeanors, but specifically bodily harm, kidnapping, wrongful bodily harm. I don't think commanders should have. I think there needs to be a third party entity or something, somebody coming in
At
to
least a
oversee
second
that,
look.
to make sure that there is justice for the victims.
Yeah, I'd say
Like,
at least a second
definitely a
look or
third party
oversight.
is needed. Oh yeah, especially that, because there's so many cases popping up now, and it's not new.
Mhm.
This is definitely
No.
not new. Ask, veterans for the last 20, 30 years. They will tell you this is not new, but it's now just coming to light.
Mhm.
It's just starting to get exposed.
Well,
through
part of that's because a lot of the people who are getting off of active duty, especially now, are fed up. They're tired. A lot of them have been at war for decades. I mean, we fought the global war on terror for almost 20 years. Well, for over 20 years now, and nothing's changed. Things have gotten worse. I mean, I know a guy who went to Afghanistan, came back and said, "I'd rather go back to Afghanistan. I felt like I was living in a cleaner, more sterile environment than what I was living in when I got back to Fort Lewis." So it they're getting fed up, and I want to go back real quick to Private Halliday real quick. The people that
Okay.
know that are going to be paying attention to this, please take a very strong interest in this, especially the investigative types. Take a very strong interest in this, because this is not just one story.
Mhm.
This is numerous stories. And if this is the chunk of rock that we can pull out of the dam to cause a flood of information to come out in this case and all these others, then by all means let's make that happen for the good of the veterans and the active duty and guard and reserve folks who have to go through this and deal with it, because this this soldier's family deserved to know a long time ago what happened to him, and they deserve to be able to say goodbye to him the way that a family would want to say goodbye. We went to great lengths after September 11th, 2001 to do everything we could in this country to reunite families with the remains of their loved ones after that horrible day. We are still doing everything we can to bring home the remains of people that were killed in Vietnam. This family deserves to be able to say goodbye to Michael. And I'm going to do what I can on my end to be able to make that happen. And bring justice to these other cases. Melissa, if Juan, do you have anything to lighten the load for us tonight, so that we're not going out on such a somber
We're
note?
normally a much funnier
Melissa,
show.
while Juan's, yeah, well, I'm funny. Mike just tells bad puns. Melissa, where can everybody find you? What are your socials that you feel safe giving out?
Oh, all of it. I don't keep secrets about who I am. I don't care who knows who I am. I am at Instagram and Facebook under the name Military Housing Slumlords. And I'm also in TikTok. I'm in TikTok under the same name, Military Housing Slumlords. And I try to keep, I'm mostly active on Instagram though. I feel safer in Instagram, Facebook. And I mean, I think I'm shadow banned on Facebook. Facebook does not like me. But so far, I'm doing pretty well in TikTok and Instagram. And I have one post in my TikTok that has 1.6 million, actually two. One has 1.6 million views and the other one has 1 million views. But you can find me.
You did a dance or what? Like
no,
you did a TikTok
didn't
dance.
didn't do any dances. No.
Didn't do any dance. You know what?
No.
We're thankful that Skipper doesn't dance on his TikTok. So.
I mean, you might get more views. You never know. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. $20 is $20, you know?
Please don't.
I've said that too much in my life.
Oh.
You got to do it for the views.
Do it for the audience.
Well, Melissa, we appreciate your time, and so now you're going to get the joy of the light end that we once in a while we end on a really serious note, but after the topic tonight, I feel like it's a good thing for us to do is to watch either something very poignant or funny or poignantly funny.
Okay.
Juan's over shaking his head. I got nothing tonight. He doesn't. You have nothing for us, Juan? Juan's got nothing. Nothing. You want to recycle the Bud Light commercials from last week? Is that?
I'll just finish off telling jokes. How's that?
Oh God, no, Juan. Find something or cut him off. What? Oh, this is what happens when you give the producer and owner of the network too much power and a week off.
Should we do our plugs now?
Well, we might as well do our plug since Juan's got nothing for us to end on. So Melissa's plugged her socials. So Skipper, go ahead.
Well, you can always find us on Facebook in our Facebook group, Veteran Nation. I am on.
We're not important enough to get shadow banned.
Yeah. You can follow us, Veteran Nation, on YouTube. Also, we're on Instagram at Vet Nation Show, and on True Social, we're at Veteran Nation.
Skipper, have you managed to get your Twitter stuff going again?
I have not. In fact, I asked them for an explanation, and they said your account is gone and it'll never come back. Like, that's almost literally what they told me. And I'm just like, okay, but tell me why. Explain to me why. But That's okay. A fan of Veteran Nation account might spring up.
We have fans.
We will have a very bald-headed fan.
Gru?
Ooh, yeah, maybe that's Gru, fan of Veteran Nation.
Gru from Despicable Me has now become a fan. I wish I could do his voice because I would do it right now. Yeah.
What are your
Folks,
plugs?
I'm plugging my coffee. The brand new, stylish, shiny bags. Coffee that is blended, roasted, and ground, custom for my show, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, by a Marine Corps veteran who's also a great supporter of vets across the country and PTSD people. So if you're interested in the coffee or any of my other merchandise, like for those of you that just like to pretend that you drink, I've got these really cool shot glasses.
Are those Colombian beans?
I don't know for sure. I know that they're organic and fair
dark
trade
one?
sourced. It's a full bodied medium roast, and everybody said they take this over their store bought dark roast, which I'm like, that's not hard to beat. I have a friend that, no, but I have a friend who uses this, and he makes most of his coffee French press. And he said he will not use anything but this for his French press anymore. So it's a really good coffee for it. So thanks for
I'll have to
asking that
try it.
question unprompted. That's amazing.
Just think of all the children,
Juan
the
did
barefoot children in Colombia that you're keeping in a job. That's awesome.
Hey, anything,
Oh my
anything,
God.
anything for $20.
Oh.
Even if it's for a week.
But so yeah, if you're interested in coffee or merch, you can email me at mbrrpodcast@yahoo.com. You can find me on Twitter at Robe Regiment. I'm still working on getting the information on YouTube for actual merch. I know you can do merch on YouTube. I don't know. I'm not that smart. We'll figure it out. So yeah, you can do that. And tune in. I've got a very interesting guest on my Monday Night Musings coming up next week. His name is Mitch Berg, and he's a big voice for traditional values in upper reaches of the United States, and actually he's kind of gone around the entire country. And he gives me hope for people who aren't shilling for the system anymore. So when he pays attention to things, it's normally very interesting for everyone around. And it does look like Juan did find a video for us to go out on.
Damn, brother, bread good as fuck. You know what I've learned over my years? You know what's better than money? Advice. Get a better job, bitch. My fucking guy. Great service, okay? So here's the tip. I'm just kidding. Here you go. No, it's not a lot, but here's my entire bank account, okay? You blow my mac and cheese, I really appreciate it. You deserve that. Oh, this is on you? Okay, wow. Thank you, Potato. He takes care of me.
Potato. I like that.
With that, folks, we're going to say thank you to our guest, Melissa Godoy, the Military Housing Slumlord. And thank you for joining us. And as always, thank you for being worth serving.